Hey guys, it's me again. It's been a couple weeks since I've seen you. Um, I'm out here in Camp Pendleton, and in order to read these papers, I both used my phone and my computer when I had, some downtime. Um, the first thing that I found interesting was the differences in races and how eating disorders affected them. I saw that it said that there was a history saying that anorexia and bulimia. A lot of people didn't think that those affected the African American community, and I thought that was interesting. It was not something that I had heard of. Of course, I hadn't really studied those conditions in depth, but it wasn't something that I would have naturally been like, oh yeah, that won't affect them. I would have figured that a mental disorder would affect various races. I would think it would be pretty equally, but as I'm learning, different things affect the different races differently because, they live through different types of drama. Like for instance, the African American community, their mental issues are going to differ from the traditionally white and Caucasian community because the whites 200 years ago enslaved black people, and so that type of experience left a lasting impression on the African American community. And so the African American community is unlike any other black community on this earth because of those lasting impacts that the slavery had on that culture. And similarly, the Native American or Native Indian or whatever they want to be referred to, the Native American culture has also been similarly affected by colonialization, Europeans coming to America and pushing them off their native lands. And so their culture was deeply impacted by that. And so they're going to, have mental disorders are going to affect their culture differently than it would Caucasians. Which kind of reminds me of the one speaker that came a few years back. I can't think of her name right now, but she was talking about post-traumatic slave disorder, and I thought that was an interesting way to kind of describe the impacts that slavery had not only on the African American community but the white community. And as I continued to read through and I got to the borderline personality disorder, I thought it was interesting how they described the borderline personality disorder in the, I think it was the third article I was reading, how they described it as possibly chronic PTSD as a result of childhood sexual trauma, and how, a lot of those who suffered from childhood sexual trauma reenact their trauma. And it kind of reminds me, I think humans as a whole, we all want to seek a kind of homeostasis level. And if we grew up thinking that, sexual trauma, that type of behavior is normal, then we want to return to that homeostasis state. And so we may try to, reenact that type of trauma that we suffered. In the authors of the paper is describing it through the relationships that they seek out and how they interact with their relationships. And there's a lot of interesting information. There's actually an article which I will probably try to print off and kind of keep to the side for reference in the future. I just think it had a lot of good information in it. Well, anyways, looks like my 5 minutes is almost up, so it's been nice talking to you guys. I'll hopefully have a couple more videos loaded up here in the next week. Take it easy.